All right, it says that we are live. Hello, everyone. How's it going? Hope you all are doing well. I'm going to introduce you to a whole bunch of people. Let's start off with Jared, AT2 Productions. How are you doing, you sexy beast?
You really don't want an answer to that.
Are you on the pot right now? Are you on the porcelain throne?
No, it's other things have been going on that have been rather entertaining in a manner of speaking.
I cannot wait to hear about it later. And with that, I'm going to welcome Will Duffy. How's it going?
Doing great. Glad to be here.
Sweet, sweet. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and break the ice. Let's get the show going. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, brothers and sisters, unless you've been living under a rock, there's this thing going on called the final experiment. And Will Duffy has been doing a lot of interviews regarding the final experiment. And I guess we can add this to the list. But, you know, it all depends on your definition of an interview. So this will not be like other interviews you have seen regarding the so-called final experiment. In fact, I'm not gonna call this interview. Let's just go ahead and call this not an interview. It's not one. This is a conversation. This is simply a conversation regarding the final experiment, and it's gonna go wherever it goes. Now, before we begin, just want to make it clear. It is no secret that I have some objections to the final experiment, and I have informed Will Duffy that he is going to be challenged during this conversation. But I don't want that to be misrepresented as me having some sort of vendetta against Will Duffy. I don't know him, and I'm not going to pretend that I do. And how he decides to spend his own money is entirely his choice. Will and I have a mutual understanding of this and therefore have decided to have a longer conversation about it. So I would like to thank Will for wanting to do this chat despite all those things. Thank you for being so cool about it. So we're going to go ahead and get on into it. So Will, to start us off, I would like for you to explain to everyone who you are, what you do, and what is the final experiment.
Yeah, again, Will Duffy here. I currently pastor a small church just outside of Denver, Colorado. And the final experiment was an idea that I had over a year ago to try to come up with something that we could do with both sides, meaning the globe side and the flat earth side, to settle the debate over the shape of the earth. It took me a while to come up with exactly what I thought would meet that criteria. And I finally came up with taking a trip to Antarctica to see whether or not there is a 24-hour sun in the south. I noticed a lot of comments from flat earthers stating that a 24-hour sun in Antarctica would not work on a flat earth, and a lot of people on the globe side stating that we do have a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. And so I thought that would be a great final experiment. And so that's the plan. We're going to head down there in December.
Understood. All right. And we're going to start off with a question that I have about the final experiment. And it was the way that you went about revealing that this was going to be a thing. Can you briefly touch on that?
Yes. So I created a website and I started releasing videos that did not state who I was. It didn't state which side I was on, flat versus globe. My fear when I originally created this was that if I made myself known at the outset, either as a glober or a flat earther, the other side would just completely disregard it. So my original intent was to build interest, leaving out who I was and which side I was on. So that's how I did it.
All right, understood. Jared, do you have anything before I continue?
Nope, this is all for you.
Excellent. All right, so you when you were originally releasing information, it was more like a trickle of information out here and there. I remember responding to one of your videos, and I was like, "So, what is this thing?" And your response was, "What's your email address?" And no offense, but I didn't know you, and to be fair, I still don't. I wasn't going to give you my email address. So hope you can understand that. But with the trickle of information of it coming out like it did you get any backlash for the trickle instead of just coming out with who you were, what your plan was, what you were offering, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I have gotten some of that. For example, Flat Earth David Weiss said that I should have just said everything at the outset, and maybe I should have, but that's just not how I decided to do it. I wanted to kind of build interest and have some mystery to it, to kind of have some intrigue, and so here we are.
So the idea was to build up hype. It was essentially writing a hype train.
Yeah, it was.
Okay. What would you say to the criticisms that you were just pushing clickbait?
Well, for what purpose is what I would ask. My channel's not monetized. I'm not making any money off of this. I'm actually spending a lot of money. So my whole goal the entire time was to make the trip down to Antarctica happen.
Yeah, I wanted to highlight this comment in our live chat. I disregarded it as clickbait, and there may not be any reason for you to make clickbait, but still, that's how some people took it. So that's the reason why I asked that question. And in regards to the clickbait comment, you would at this point say, no, this is absolutely not clickbait. I was 100% serious while I was producing these videos or pushing out this information.
Oh yeah, definitely serious. For those who are following, you've probably noticed it's getting quite expensive for me. Jaron of Jaronism wanted me to make a public video that I would cover all of his expenses, no matter what they were, for this trip, thinking they would maybe go up to $45,000. And now he stated that he would go to Antarctica as long as another flat earther would go with him, preferably Austin Whitsitt. So yeah, this is getting very expensive, but as people will see, I have been serious the entire time, and I remain serious about this.
Understood. All right. So during your information trickle, let's call it, you made it seem like over 40 people would be invited to participate in something big out there in the field. However, after everything was revealed, that number was reduced to the actual figure, which was 2. The actual invite is for 1 flat earther and 1 normal person with a functioning brainstem to go along with you to Antarctica. So the question I have is, why did you make it seem like this was going to be bigger than what it was actually planned to be?
Yeah, so again, this may have been a tactical error, but I revealed information to the participants that I didn't reveal to the general public. And there were about 6 of the 48 whose emails I could never find, and one of those was yours. And so I explained to them in those emails that participating would be easy to do and would not require them to travel to Antarctica. And as you know, as funny as this is, Dave Weiss actually came to my defense on this when Austin Whitsitt tried to claim that I'm misrepresenting participation. He actually corrected Austin and said, no, from Will's emails from the outset, he stated what it would take to be considered as a participant, and it only involves making a suggestion about the experiment or interviewing him if you don't want to go to Antarctica.
Oh yeah, we have suggestions here, and we'll get to that momentarily. But I did want to get on to the whole definition of what it takes to be considered a participant. In order to participate in an experiment or an observation, you have to help with logistics, data collection, data processing. Simply doing an interview should not, and in my opinion, does not count as participating in any experiment or observation. If I interview a mechanic as he's fixing a car, that doesn't mean I helped to fix that car. If anything, I just got in his way. So my question to you is, why are you counting people who have interviewed you as participants in your experiment? In your experiment, is the idea to make the number seem bigger than it actually is?
Yeah, that's a really good question. My goal behind that was, if somebody didn't want to really do any difficult work or use their brain, just simply promoting the final experiment, and just kind of helping us reach more people with it, I decided would count. My goal was to make it as easy as possible, so that it would, hopefully entice more participation than less.
I see. So basically, your goal was to get as many eyes onto this as possible.
Yeah, the more people we've reached, the more feedback and suggestions and ideas I've received, which has been incredibly helpful. One guy who actually will be in Antarctica this December, helping with flights in and out of McMurdo, heard about it and reached out to me. And so, yeah, the more people that know about it, I feel like the better off we'll be. We'll be able to think more things through and just get more ideas, because I really have been hoping for a collaborative effort here. I think the more people involved, the better it will be.
Yeah. Let me go ahead and just respond to something. God is nowhere. Well read, it's not your project. So why do you want to change how this person is doing this? God is nowhere. I think you may have chronic head up the ass syndrome. I don't care what this guy does with his own money. This is a conversation where I get to ask him questions, and he has agreed to answer those questions. If he wants to do this despite the concerns that I have, then that's entirely on him. And if you don't like this this hangout or the questions that I'm asking, you can go watch Looney Tunes. I don't really give a flying fuck. With that out of the way, let's move on to the next question. Why even invite a normal person at all? Why even do that? Normal people do not need to be convinced that the 24-hour sun is a thing. Only flat earthers need to be convinced. And if finances are going to limit the number of people that can go, why not double the bang for your buck by sending 2 flat earthers instead of 1? I think I spoke to you about this privately, and apparently Jeranism seems to be along that same mindset, where he's like, oh, I would go, but I would want another flat earther to hold my hand or emotional support, whatever the fucking excuse is this week. But I agree that only flat earthers should go in that aspect, because if we are looking at people who need to be convinced, it's only the flat earthers on that case. So why even invite a normal person at all?
Yeah, another great question. So here was my thought process on that. I assumed if we only, let's just speak hypothetically here. I assumed if we would only send a globe earther and he would take a video of the 24-hour sun and come back, the flat earthers would say he's lying, or he faked the video, or it's CGI or whatever. And then I also considered the flip side, which is if we only send a flat earther or 2, they could easily come back and say, hey, we went, there is no 24-hour sun, the sun set. And then we would probably say, well, we think you're lying. So I thought having both sides there to keep each other accountable would be the best thing.
Would that still be accomplished by giving them pieces of equipment that cannot be tampered with, or at the very least, it would be very obvious if it was tampered with? A suggestion that I had is that if you were to send 2 flat earthers down there, that you would give them cameras with SD cards that couldn't be, fucked with, without it leaving some sort of sign behind. I know they have like anti-tamper tapes or whatever. I'm not saying we would do that process, but if you could keep I guess I should ask it this way. If you could keep the flat earthers honest, would you just send flat earthers?
That's a great question. I would definitely consider it. I do know a lot of people on the globe side who have reached out to me and said they've had a desire before they die to get to Antarctica as kind of a bucket list item. One guy said he's been to all the continents except Antarctica. So I think it is going to be an exciting time having a globe earther there. But what you're saying is an interesting idea that I would consider.
Yeah, see, the problem is flat earthers are not very good at photography as far as I have seen. You are absolutely correct. Flat earthers suck at cameras. They suck at telescopes, which is why I would suggest a Insta360, because you don't even have to try to aim that thing in order to get the subject in the shot. So that was my solution to that problem, because let's face it, flat earthers are terrible when it comes to cameras. So let's say you did get 2 flat earthers to agree to that, and we both agreed that Jaron should be the one to go, because I have a special place in my heart for Jaronism. He was a guy that I debated that resulted in one of the most thorough flat earth ass kickings I think I've ever given to anybody. Awesome time. Jaronism still has nightmares about it to this day. So I think Jaronism should go. But Jaronism said that he would go if he could bring someone else with them. Are you considering funding not just one flat earther, but 2 flat earthers and a Globie?
Yes, I am. So I told Jaron that I would do it. It would mean I'm giving my spot up, but I think it's worth it. And he's currently talking to Austin Whitsitt, and I'm waiting to hear from him if they'll both go.
All right. And when do you think we're going to... I assume you haven't had your interview with Jaronism yet, right?
I actually did just
Oh, you did?
a couple of days ago. Yeah, that's where this came out. That's where he said that he's willing to go to Antarctica, but he doesn't want to go alone. And at the end of the interview, I said, so what is your answer? And he said, let me talk to Austin. And if Austin will go with me, then we'll both go. So I'm waiting to hear back. I would think I'll probably hear back by Monday, but for sure next week.
No, I understand. Jaronism needs to speak to the clergy, and it makes sense. It makes sense. I understand it. Okay, then let's see. I'm going to ask your opinion on this. What, based on your conversation with Jaronism and the other flat earthers that you have spoken to, what is the probability that you're actually going to get one of the big dogs to sign up for this, like Jaronism, Dave Weiss, Whitsitt, those people, Eric Dubay?
Yeah, so Dave Weiss shut that door. He said no.
Oh, really? Why is that, if you don't mind me asking? Did he just say no, F you, then that was it?
He said that he believes my friends are demons.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know any demons, so I'm not exactly sure who he's talking about, but that was his reason. I do believe Jaron is being honest with me, and so if he is, I think he's seriously considering going. Austin Whitsitt has stated within the last 6 months that he was already planning to go to Antarctica this December. So I think this is a perfect opportunity for him to be able to go for free versus having to pay for it himself. He actually said the reason he wanted to go to Antarctica this December is to see whether or not there's a 24-hour sun. So if that was, genuine of him and he wasn't making that up, I think he will consider going as well. Eric Dubay has avoided communicating with me from the very beginning until a few days ago. I finally got him to respond to a comment on one of his YouTube videos, and he does not seem very excited to participate in this.
And why do you think that is? Why do you think that you have a number of flat earthers that have been bitching and moaning about not being able to go to Antarctica? You're essentially rolling out the red carpet for them, and they're having issues with it. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because they have a genuine fear of travel, or do you think they're trying to protect their grift?
Yeah, it's been very telling. Flat earthers have been the most outspoken advocates of getting to Antarctica, traveling to Antarctica, going there. And now that this opportunity has been presented to them, which I do think is pretty much a red carpet, they're kind of changing their tune. I'm even hearing flat earthers say now they don't care if there's a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. One even said he thinks there's going to be a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. And so what I'm sensing is that they actually have been believing there probably is a 24-hour sun there. And now that we're going to go see it, I think there's possibly some fear as to what that would mean. So I think that is what's creating the hesitancy.
Yes. So, well, this is the part where I bring up my next question, and this next question is going to be a little forward, if I do say so myself. So just be prepared. Are you aware that even if successful, and you get flat earthers to Antarctica and all that stuff, that there are only a certain number of possible outcomes, and I'm going to say 99.9% of them, they're not going to solve this flat earth argument that we've been having on the internet. In other words, are you aware that there is a very high likelihood that this is not going to accomplish the goal of putting this argument to bed? And as an example of that, if we were to have Jeranism come back and say, guys, guess what? The earth is round. I've been wrong since 2015. That dude's just going to get excommunicated. Or, on the other hand, they can go to Shane's model, which is a plagiarized globe model. We've all seen that dumpster fire on Twitter. You know, the one where the sun is 93 million miles away in the code of his model that he supposedly did not plagiarize. Yeah, a little interesting detail there that I thought people should know about. But anyway, they can go to his model, which does have a 24-hour sun, because they think light magically bends in weird, fucked up ways to make it work. So are you aware that they could just deviate to one of these alternatives instead of doing the obvious thing, which is to accept that flat earth made a prediction and that prediction was wrong?
Yeah, so I'm still optimistic, and obviously, I'm going to be clouded by the fact that this is my project and I'm paying for it. Both sides have been honest with me that I'm probably, being naive here, that this is going to make a big difference. But I honestly am still hopeful. At the very least, if this can at least move the conversation forward a bit, I'll be happy. One thing I did notice when I was deep in this flat earth rabbit hole for a couple of years, watching these videos and YouTube and debates and all these articles that were written, is I just felt like there's kind of a bit of a standstill in this debate and no real movement. And so I'm hoping this will at least move the needle forward, and we'll see how far that will be.
I understand. All right. I'm afraid that this undertaking will lead to regret for Will. Flirts are inherently dishonest. He should use the money to help deserving people. Your response?
It might. Right now, I'm giving flat earthers the benefit of the doubt. I'm trusting that they're going to be honest about their observation in December. And I also would like to say this to flat earthers, if you're listening. I think I've created possibly the best opportunity in the history of flat earth. If you really do believe the sun sets in Antarctica, which I think your model demands, this is the greatest opportunity to go capture that and show it to the world, and show that the world is being lied to.
All right. Glober Mom, it doesn't matter what evidence is shown to a flat earther. I believe that was supposed to be flat earther. They're still going to believe in the flat earth because of reasons. Let me modify the context of that comment, if I may, Glober Mom, and I hope I do you no disservice by doing so. Basically, even if you're convincing the people that did go, what impact do you think it's going to have on the people that follow them, subscribe to them, so on and so forth, regardless what they say?
Yeah, I think,
are they still going to believe in flat earth, even though you were able to convince these other guys?
Possibly. I think it's going to depend on how much they trust this person that they follow, how long they've been following them, because anybody can disregard anyone else. But there's also something here, which is that our goal is going to be to return with plenty of video footage, photos, and evidence of whatever the sun does down there. And so they're going to have to deal with both someone that they've trusted in and believed in for years, and also photo and video evidence. And so it's going to be a lot for them to disregard, and some probably will, and that's probably par for the course.
They will say they got to Jaren. They threatened him. Just for the record, you have not threatened Jaren at all.
No, Jaren and I currently have a great relationship. We text, we talk, and so yeah, I'm great with Jaren right now.
To be clear, you are not holding his nudes hostage.
Nope.
Okay. So you heard it here. You heard it here first. Jaren, he does not have your nudes. You can rest easy. Okay. So with that, I move on to my next question. Let's say I was able to give you a crystal ball where you can see the future and all that stuff. On the assumption that this does not solve anything, would you still be willing to spend 6 figures on this endeavor just for the experience?
Wow. At this point, I would say yes. If you were able to tell me this before I, made the first video, I would probably say no. But I feel like I'm kind of in too deep at this point. So,
All right. What would happen if you go to Antarctica and the weather turns out to be terrible? Is there a do-over date?
yeah. So this is obviously one of those unknowns that we just can't predict or understand or really know until we get there. And it is a valid concern. It's one that I've had. The dates were chosen intentionally at kind of the heart of the southern summer. I've watched a lot of videos down there, seen a lot of pictures. And it's also one of the reasons we're going to be there for 5 days and not just one day to give us the best opportunity. And so I do fully expect we've got a very good chance of having at least one day with clear skies. If we end up with 5 days of really, really bad weather, that would be an anomaly and it would be unfortunate, but it is what it is.
All right. And this question was inspired by this comment. What if the weather will be bad and result will only cause damage? So I hope that answers your question there. Let's see. Witsit and Shane, hey, remember those? I brought them up. Will simply invent the personal dome of the azimuthal circularity or some equivalent BS and write it off. If they can do it with gravity, this will pose no problem. What is your response?
Yeah, my response to this is that we already have most of the what I would call prominent flat earthers stating on record that a 24-hour sun in Antarctica does not work on a flat earth. They've stated it would prove the globe. And so if they do want to go back on that, it's going to be a little bit of a harder turn for them because of what they've already said publicly. And part of the final experiment buildup and everything that we're doing 6 months in advance is going to be to get them to make their stance clear prior to going. And so I think if they do that, it's going to be, eye-opening and it's going to be difficult for them to do.
Now, on the assumption that they make their stances clear, will you force them? I'm going to use the word force here. A little bit more authority behind it. After they make their stances clear, will you force them to ask their audience if they agree with them?
Wow, that's a great idea that I hadn't considered, and I will absolutely do that now. Thank you
I
for
would
that.
say make it a poll saying, hey, if I see this, then it means this. They have to clearly state that, and they have to ask their audience if they also agree. And if they do, then you know of a certain percentage that is now tied to that. They are tied to, okay, if I see this, then it means this. And they agreed with that beforehand. Like, I'm just going to pull a number out my ass here, 50%. That means 50% should be on Jaren's side when he comes back and says, hey, guess what? The 24-hour sun thing is a thing.
Yeah, I love the idea. I will absolutely ask them to do that.
I would make it a requirement, honestly. And so question, you go ahead and go through with this. You have your flat earthers. Are you going to make them sign any contract stating that they have to be honest regarding what they saw and what they experienced?
Yes, I have already stated there's going to be a contract that needs to be signed. It's mainly to protect me from a financial loss from them backing out. But I will work with the attorney on language that can incorporate honesty and transparency as well.
All right, understood. So here's another thing. instead of doing a trip to Antarctica, and I know this is kind of your baby at this point, so just hear me out. Instead of doing a trip to Antarctica, what sounds to me like is you have $100,000 that you're willing to put towards the flat Earth, globe Earth argument to settle it out in some way. Have you thought about doing something else with the money that might involve more flat earthers and maybe not require an absurd amount of travel? An idea that I had brought up before was a suborbital rocket where flat earthers would be responsible for the payload, which could be a series of cameras, sensors, and that kind of thing. I'm not saying that's the only idea that exists, and I'm sure a lot more can be done for $100,000, but have you thought about doing something else? And how does the Antarctic trip accomplish more than all of these other ideas that do exist?
Yeah, I went through a lot of ideas. Obviously, if I could do this cheaper, it would be better, or if I could do it bigger, meaning more flat earthers, more globe earthers with the same amount of money, it would be ideal. But I just couldn't come up with anything. I looked into and considered, rockets and low Earth orbit space travel, and that was all just like astronomically expensive. I was worried about them saying that if they saw curvature, that it was due to the windows being curved, or that the windows were LED screens and not real windows. So I just couldn't come up with anything other than going to Antarctica and the 24-hour sun that I thought would be the best bang for the buck.
Yeah, but we do also accept that the 24-hour sun can be explained away if you bring up, like, for example, Shane's plagiarized model, correct?
I'm not familiar with that, and so I'd have to see that. So far, the flat earthers have stated that in their model, the sun can never go behind you, meaning if you're facing north in Antarctica, it can never be south of you. And so that seems pretty strong if that's what happens down there.
Are you of the opinion that the flat Earth model is flexible, kind of like Elastigirl from The Incredibles?
I've seen definitely some flexibility. I don't see any model currently that could account for, and this is important, that could account for both a 24-hour sun in the north and the south. And that's the importance of science, is we make models and then we make predictions and then we test them. And so I've been explaining to people that the globe model demands a 24-hour sun in both the north and the south. And not only that, it has to happen in different times of the year. And not only that, the sun would have to move through the sky in a different direction. And so that's kind of what we're testing in there. And I would say this: I think all flat plane models would not be able to account for everything that I just said. A 24-hour sun in the north, a 24-hour sun in the south, and they go in opposite directions. And so I have not seen any yet that can handle that.
Yeah, this one comes up a lot. The flat Pac-Man Earth model, and essentially where the sun can literally teleport to one side or the other. I've heard that before. That was by a flat earther by name of Awake Souls, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
It was Awake. Okay,
classic.
so I did get that right. So yeah, there was the flat Pac-Man Earth model where the sun just goes waka 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 to the other side, and there you go. One even stated that the Earth is flat and it only works because it's actually a simulation. So we've heard that. Basically, my fear, Will, and tell me if you share this, and we may have already discussed this earlier in this stream, but I'm just going to repeat it because it is important to think about these things. Let's face facts. You're spending a lot of money on this, and so we want to make sure that you get the biggest bang for your buck. And the reason why I'm challenging you on all these things is because I want to make sure that you actually thought about these things and that you are comfortable with whatever may come from it. This is, like I said, 6 figures that you're putting towards this. So I hope you don't feel like I'm meaning you any disrespect by challenging you on this. And I do thank you for being cool about it.
No, I honestly appreciate it. I'm open to criticism. I'm open to being wrong and having new ideas. Something I'll throw out there is, if the only thing that comes of this is, we see a 24-hour sun, it gets verified by the flat Earth side, and therefore the AE map is no longer utilized by the flat Earth side, I think that's a win.
Yeah, and this brings us to our two options. Which one is more likely? One, that they will finally acknowledge, by they, I mean flat Earth, it's as close to a cult as you can get without it actually being a cult. I understand that. But for simplicity, I'm just going to call it a cult. So you have the flat Earth cult finally acknowledging that the flat Earth does not work, or will they somehow, as a whole, brute force the flat Earth to work with a 24-hour sun? Not talking about Jeranism or Dave Weiss or anybody like that, just flat earthers in general. What do you think is more likely on the assumption that the weather is perfect and your trip out there is a complete success?
Yeah, I think if they want to do that, then it's going to be up to us on the globe side to really put pressure on them to demonstrate it. Give us a video, give us a demonstration, give us a model, even if it's, markers on a piece of paper. Show us how this one spot, because we have to remember on the current flat Earth model, Antarctica is massive. It's way bigger than on the globe model because it encompasses all of the world, all of the known continents, all of the known oceans. And so why is it this one tiny spot that we went and visited on your map, did we have a sun circling around us there? I think it's going to be very difficult for them to explain.
All right. And speaking of one tiny spot, why are you picking a tiny spot that isn't the tiny spot called the South Pole?
Yeah, my original plan was to get to the South Pole. I thought that would have been the best, and it probably would be the best. It is just wildly expensive to get to the South Pole. The cheapest I found to get to the South Pole was almost $70,000 per person. So it just was way too expensive.
And that's because there's a whole bunch of logistics and people that know what they're doing that need to guide you there.
Yeah. Your first flight usually lands somewhere, a few hours into Antarctica, and then you take another plane to get all the way to the South Pole. It's just a very far place to travel, and there's not a lot going on down there. So it makes it expensive.
But even though that wouldn't really matter, because where you're going, you will still be able to see the 24-hour sun. I'm assuming you're at the point where the sun will dip down slightly, maybe just skirt the horizon, but then come back up again. Is that what you're expecting to see, as based on where you will actually be stationed?
Yeah, so the camp is Union Glacier Camp, which is right at 80 degrees south. It's 79 degrees, 46 minutes south. And some people who have some really cool software and, can do modeling have been doing modeling. And what they're telling me is that the sun will actually never even touch the horizon. It will stay around 13 to 17 degrees above the horizon the entire time.
Mm-hmm. All right. Will you make sure that Jaron or any other flat earthers that he happens to congregate with, will you make them finally stop saying that the Antarctic Treaty prevents them from going? Because obviously they'll be there.
Yeah, he brought this up in my interview with him a few days ago and asked me if I've heard any flat earthers ever say you can't go to Antarctica. And I said, yes, I just heard one today, that day. There's a channel called Flat Earth and Coffee. I believe the guy's name is Bobby Thompson. He actually makes really good videos. They're clear, they're easy to understand. But he just said a few days ago that you can't go to Antarctica. And so, yes, that is false. And we will be making sure that that myth gets dispelled through the final experiment.
Okay. And so I would honestly, would you agree with this, that it needs to be put in the contract that, hey, if I'm successful in getting you to Antarctica as a flat earther, you are not allowed to spew that demonstrably false piece of information. The narrative saying that if you go to Antarctica, military penguins will bazooka your sorry ass right out of the sky or something like that as your plane's coming in for a landing.
Yeah, I like that. Something else the flat earthers say is they say that you can only go to the tip of the peninsula of Antarctica, which is not true. They say you cannot travel further than 60 or 66 degrees south, which is also not true. They say you can only get to Antarctica by ship or boat, which is also not true. So we're dispelling all of those myths. We're taking a plane, not a boat. We're flying many hours deep into Antarctica. We're going to be at 80 degrees south. And so, yeah, we need to dispel all those myths at this point.
Yes, Jaron now says flat earthers don't say that. See, that's the thing. And this is what I meant when I say that flat earth is flexible. It's fluid. It can be whatever you want it to be because it's not an actual model. It's whatever they want it to be. And this is my concern. And Will, like I said, I don't mean you any disrespect by bringing this up again. I know I brought it up multiple times, but I just want to be clear. You're spending $100,000 on something that flat earthers may just dismiss, saying, well, if that's what happens, then we just have to accept that that's what happens on a flat earth. Fuck actually explaining that shit. They're going to make up some magical light characteristics that makes it all make sense. We all heard the personal dome thing. In fact, if I remember correctly, and Jared, correct me if I'm wrong on this, wasn't Jaronism the original proponent of the personal atmospheric dome nonsense that Shane has now taken for his own?
Yes, back in the days when it was he and Bob Nodell at the forefront of Globebusters.
Yeah, so one thing that would be concerning is that they're just going to pull that kind of shit. Now, obviously, a contract can maybe prevent them from doing that. Also stating what certain observations would mean beforehand, but not being limited to just them, just flat earth in general and all the people that are in that crowd. Do you think that's a possibility that they're just going to say, okay, there's a 24-hour sun. Great. That just means it happens on a flat earth and we need to explain it.
Yeah, they might. A lot of people don't want to, necessarily watch Jaron's, channel or give him views, but I would recommend, if you're going to watch anything, to watch his interview of me, because he actually, without my prompting, explained to his audience why a 24-hour sun in the south in Antarctica is not possible on a flat earth. He pulled out the flat earth Gleason map, the AE map, and he drew on it. And he said, you guys, if there's a way for this to work, tell me, because I don't know what it is. And he challenged his audience to show him how it could work. And so far, I haven't seen a single flat earther that can make it work.
Yep, understood. And let's also answer some comments in the live chat because, yeah, they're getting kind of out there. But I did want to address something before we actually do that on second thought. Let me address this real quick. Guys, at the end of the day, this is his money. He can do whatever he wants with it. If he wants to spend money taking flat earthers to Antarctica, more power to him, honestly. It's not a good look when you're telling him that, hey, spending money in this way kind of makes you a bad person. I don't think it does. You could say it's a waste of money. That's a valid opinion to have, but to say it makes him a bad person is a little bit on the nose there. Just pointing that out there. So next, the question is, why are you calling it the final experiment and not the final observation? I guess being very literal with the terminology there.
Yeah, so if people don't like the name, that's fine. I'm only hearing people not liking the name coming from one side, which is the flat earth side. And so really what this is about is the 24-hour sun. And so if you don't like the name, I would say just change the name to something that you like and call it that. And then let's just move forward to see if there's a 24-hour sun. I would like to mention that a video was released yesterday by a channel called Where's Wally? And he did a great job of actually giving some IV and DV to the final experiment. And so, science is not my, area of expertise. And so when other people come in and help out, it's very appreciative. So I do think based on his video, this does qualify as real science. It does qualify as an actual experiment. But again, if you don't like the name, that's okay. I think we should all care about truth. We should all care about reality, and figuring out exactly what the sun does is something we should all want to know.
Understood. Since MC Toon is in the live chat, I want to ask this kind of question. So your goals for the final experiment, are they in direct conflict with MC Toon's law of Flirt? Specifically, that flat earthers are pseudoscientists when evaluating flat Earth claims, and science deniers when evaluating globe claims.
Yeah, so it's a great question, and what I'm
If it's a
trying
law, you can't. It's kind of like every action has an equal opposite reaction. You can't really change that. So if we're going to be like, hey, I'm going to do this thing to get flat earthers to finally understand that they're wrong, but they're pseudoscientists whenever they're evaluating their own bullshit, then you're kind of in a position where the unstoppable force is hitting the immovable object.
Yeah, and that's the difficulty, right? So yeah, I'm going to do my best to get them to do as much as we can on the front side here, to just make it clear this is what we're doing, this is what we're trying to see, this is what this result will mean, this is what that result will mean, and I really feel like that's the best I can do.
He says the third law of Flurf is up for falsification. Will it happen? No. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. I'm willing to be proved wrong, but I don't think I'm going to be. Something tells me I'm not going to be proved wrong on that. So finally, if not Jeranism, who's looking like the most likely to go here, who would you want to go on the flat Earth side?
Yeah, I would love David Weiss to go, Jaron to go, Austin Whitsitt to go. Those would probably be my top three choices. If all three of them won't go, we're going to go to the next person on the list based on our voting, which is Eric Dubé. And then if he refuses, we're going to have to do a new poll with a new 4 flat earthers and just take it one at a time. If I have to, I'll go through all 24 flat earthers, and if I have to, I'll get 24 no's, but time will tell on that.
Understood. And your response to flat earthers in the comment section of multiple videos out there, I'm sure you've seen them, that are saying that you're evil, that you're dishonest, you're a Satanist, you're a fake pastor, whatever the case may be. Do you have any responses to that type of slander and libel?
Yeah, I actually don't mind it because I think it is very telling, and I think it obviously shows that they are scared of the final experiment. There's really not much more to say about that. If you want, you can visit my church. At least 2 flat earthers have visited my church. One of them is in your comment section right now. And so it's a real church. I'm a real pastor. We have a real congregation. Yes, it's a small church, but hey, we're doing the best we can.
Yeah. So, and are you doing the final experiment as some sort of calling to your faith?
Yes, I think so. The
And what way?
The flat Earth ideology seems to be really growing within the church. And so as a pastor, as a Christian, I have a calling to make sure that if something is becoming prominent in the church, that it's true. And so I'm on a mission here to find the truth. And if the truth is that the earth is flat and that there is no 24-hour sun, then I'm completely fine that this is growing in the church. But if it's not, it's something that I think should be put to bed. So yes, definitely.
Understood. And I got 3 questions here from me, and then I'll keep looking in the live chat. And Jared, if you also see some good questions in the live chat that I missed, please speak up. But I'll ask this one.
I have one directly off of that real quick, so we don't stray too far and have to loop back too much.
Go for it. I'm happy about it. Go for it.
Will, with your position as a pastor and being an active member of the faith in the church, is your current position that the pushing of the flat earth narrative is effectively a diminishment of God's power?
Trying to understand what you mean.
I'll rephrase it this way. Do you believe, as of right now, from an intellectual standpoint, that by saying that the earth is flat and is contained and is only the reality that we directly experience, do you see that as a limitation of God's infinite, all-knowing, all-powerful nature versus his creation of the entire universe that we observe when you go beyond the earth itself?
Okay, yeah, I understand what you're saying. And yeah, I do think there is an aspect of that for sure, now that you bring it to my attention. So, for example, they talk about, things like gravity not being real, space not being real, planets are not what we think they are. And in a sense, like they talk about how, we can't be moving and the sun can't be as far away as we say it is and not as big. And so, yeah, those things do have a flavor of, God couldn't do that. I think that's a very, very good point. By saying the things that they do, they're essentially implying that God wouldn't be able to create a world and a universe like so many people believe we live in.
This one, it says, Will, I agree with you on that. And I believe God does not want us to be fooled and follow lies and false conspiracies, or as we like to call them, conspiracies, and falsely accuse others of evil. I also believe it is up to the leaders too. So there's that. And let's see. At Reds, my question to Will Duffy. Do you think it is dishonest to make someone make a public statement that you will pay for everything, then ask them to agree to pay for a friend, but not agree to go? I guess this is referring to Jeranism saying, but what about my emotional support animal, Dave Weiss? Can't he come with? You said you would pay for it.
Yeah, I would say no. I don't think it's dishonest. Something I've been trying to let people know, which has been difficult for both sides, Globe and Flat Earth side, is that there's a lot of conversations happening behind the scenes that, of course, no one else is privy to other than myself. And based on those conversations, I don't think anybody on the Flat Earth side has done anything dishonest at this point. They're asking honest questions. They're asking me to do things because they're afraid that I will go back on what I've said. And so they want it to be public. And so far, I'm happy with how it's played out.
Understood. All right. And so with that, I'm going to ask the third to last question that I have here. So do you think it is prudent or beneficial to modify the verbiage that you use on your website? So instead of referring to individuals as participants for doing the simple act of interviewing you, you can just call them like people that have promoted your stuff or have drawn attention to it. I don't know how you wish to label it, but are you willing to do that? And are you willing to, just make sure that there is no confusion, that your website is properly representative of what you want to do and the goals that you are seeking to accomplish?
Yes, we have had a lot of feedback on communication and our website. And so I'm doing the best I can. I'm kind of a one-man show. I have a web guy, but who's great. But every time he helps me out, it's more money. So we have been updating our website. If people haven't been there recently, we've added an FAQs page, which is starting to clear up a lot of these frequently asked questions that we're getting. We also added an interviews page because people were feeling like they weren't being credited for interviewing me because they're not one of the 48 people. So we actually have 2 scoreboards now, one for the original 48 and then one for people who just interview me. And we're promoting, anybody that does that. So Flat Earth side, Globe side, doesn't matter. So anyway, yeah, we're trying to be as fair as we can.
Given the FE response, has Will honestly wished at any point that he never had the idea in the first place?
Actually, some days, yes. And that's just me being brutally honest. I actually told my wife that yesterday. So some days are very difficult for me. They're very discouraging. People have been, starting to talk about my wife and my children and just doing things that are just absolutely unnecessary and have nothing to do with the world we live in and science and the final experiment. So yes, some days, my bad days, I feel that way, but then other days I've got good days and I feel excited about it and look forward to December.
This may be a bit personal, but I'm going to ask it anyway. And by the way, eat a dick is a perfectly acceptable answer to any question I ask you. But did your wife come up to you and be like, honey, I love you, but you're spending $100,000 on flat earthers?
She's been supportive of me the entire time. The original budget that she approved was less than $100,000. And so it has gone over that, but she's followed it closely. She watches the videos, and so far she's been incredibly supportive. So I'm very thankful for that.
What is the total right now? If you were to have the three individuals that are, I guess, projected to go, you not being one of them, which I think is a travesty. Just pointing that out there. If this actually happens, you should be one of the individuals going, being that you're paying for it, but whatever. For the three people that are going, how much is this going to cost you?
Right now, it's going to be right at 100,000. There's some expenses that are still unknown, but that's what I'm estimating.
About $100,000. Okay. Understood. And let's see. At Red, he seriously does not think Dave Weiss's behavior is dishonest after being the foremost proponent to go to Antarctica and now having backed out. I guess the question is there a flat earther out there? And I guess Dave Weiss would be underneath that category, who is so dishonest, so full of shit that they wouldn't get the privilege to go even if they came to you and said, yes, I'll go?
Yeah, so I'll tell you something that Dave Weiss did recently that did make me a little bit frustrated with him. So
Uh-huh.
again, he's been, open about not only wanting to go to Antarctica, he said he would fly to Antarctica. He said he would go there to settle the debate. He said the debate could be settled in one day. All of those things were true. And now he's not doing it, which is, again, disappointing. But in fairness, I told him and everybody else from the very beginning, there's no pressure. You don't have to go. You don't even have to participate. What he did that really frustrated me is literally within days of turning down a free trip to Antarctica, he was on Alex Jones with Eddie Bravo stating that things like they fake the 24-hour sun in Antarctica and it's difficult to travel there. And it's like, wait a minute, we've offered this thing to you here, and now you're going to go, spout off that stuff on Alex Jones. So that was frustrating to me.
Well, that would just speak to his grift. I think he's worried that if he were to go there, then his grift would be compromised. Whereas he has this narrative going around that Antarctica is a military base. They have tactical penguins that will devour you before you get anywhere close to Antarctica. As soon as you cross a certain threshold on the water or some shit like that. The 24-hour sun is fake. It's all CGI by the Freemason Illuminati people. They eat children alive, I'm guessing. He's known for making up bullshit like that. And so, in my opinion, he is too dishonest. If he were to go, he would just be a bad influence on Jaren. In my opinion, I think. And yes, there would be a Globey there just to keep him honest, but this goes back to what we said at the beginning of this conversation. They're just going to say that the other person's lying. And yes, we're, of course, going to believe the Globe Earther because the Globe Earther is actually going to have receipts, but receipts have never stopped flatties before. They don't care about evidence. They don't care about mathematics. They don't care about physics. They don't care about any of that stuff. Receipts have never cured this. It has never cured the internet of this group of people. And so we want to be very clear that that is a risk that you're taking, and you accept that risk, right?
Yeah, I do. It's been so interesting having the flat earthers call me a liar and dishonest when here's what I could have done, and people have done similar things, is I could have pretended to be a flat earther, became friends with them, got into their inner circles, told them, hey, let's do this trip to Antarctica, let's refute the globe. And then bam, we get there and it's like, surprise, I'm a glober. Here you are under a 24-hour sun. And it's like, I didn't do that. I've been honest and forthright the entire time, admitted I was a glober from the beginning once I revealed my identity. But I guess it doesn't matter. I think it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't.
All right. Well, a thing that can totally undermine that is live streaming. Are you going to have any internet connectivity in Antarctica?
So the answer to that is yes. Our camp now has Starlink. Now, in terms of what that means and what the bandwidth will be and how often we can use it, I don't know. Once we have the participants nailed down, once all of that is done and paid for, I'm going to pivot to kind of the logistics of the trip and the experiment, and I'm going to do my best to have the ability to live stream. That's my goal.
And this would be a live stream not just on one particular channel. I imagine that you would want this live stream to happen on all the channels for the participants. So it would, if Jeranism's going, it's going to be live streamed on his channel. If Dave Weiss is going, it's going to be live streamed on his channel, and so on and so forth. That would be, I would assume that would be a requirement if live streaming is a possibility.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. I don't want people to get their hopes up that we're going to be able to live stream, but I am going to do my best. And for sure, we will have at least some periods with internet connectivity.
Okay, understood. That's good. That's good. And what would you want them to show during the live stream?
Yeah, so, number one, that we're there. Number two, that we're in Antarctica. And then number three, this would be especially good for the flat Earth side is for the 5 days that we're there. In their model, there should be a significant amount of time every single day that the sun is not in the sky. And so I would want them at any point when that happens, bam, the sun's not in the sky. We've got clear skies, to live stream that, to turn the camera 360 degrees and say, here you go, everybody. The sun has officially set in Antarctica.
Yep. So let's see. If Will ends up giving his place to Witsit, we should get a GoFundMe set up to pay for Will to still go on the trip. So to that, I have a question. Could you easily change the number of people going by simply having more money to spend, or is it more complicated than that?
No, it's that easy. More money means more people. So
They always have seats open, I'm guessing?
Yes, they have a very big plane. Antarctic Logistics and Expeditions have a 757. I can tell you that on their campsite currently, they only have room for 70 people, but that's a lot of people. So I've been hoping people with money who care about science and who care about this debate might step up and say, hey, I want to sponsor 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people to go. And then I'll open that up to the original 48 that we invited.
And to everyone who's watching this in the live chat, I would recommend to do a mass download of all materials from Jeranism and Dave Weiss. And also Witsit too, because they're going to say that they didn't say things that they actually said. And if they go on this trip, it's going to directly contradict. I want that material. It doesn't have to necessarily be posted on my channel, but it should be posted on someone's channel because there should be a record of that. Just throwing that out there, if I may. All right, so let's see. This may have already been mentioned, but will there be showing GPS coordinates to verify they are where they say they are? So will you be able to show GPS coordinates in real time?
That's the plan. Another one of the Globe participants, Wolfie 6020, he's actually donating 2 GPS units for the final experiment, one for the Glober and one for the Flat Earther. So yes, we will be using GPS to show where we're at, starting in Punta Arenas, Chile, all the way to Antarctica.
All right, cool. And does the plane have? I assume the plane is going to be able to be tracked in real time by like FlightAware or some other free service like that.
I don't know. A few people have asked me that, and I just don't have an answer for that. So my goal is that will happen so that everybody can kind of watch from all around the world, but I don't know yet if that will be tracked on those sites or not.
Understood. And C3 for $5. Thank you very much for the dick. I appreciate it. We're all about dick freedoms here. Okay, so anyway, moving on. Let's see. How was the list of 48 developed, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, so based on my personal...
Wait. Hang on. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Let me just do something real quick. Sorry, I was getting noise from a different tab. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, based on my own personal experience in the flat earth debate, just the different participants, I chose the ones from each side that I thought did the best job at defending their side, and also who I was aware of. The 24 number was not arbitrary. The final experiment, the number for the whole thing is 24. It's the year 2024. There's 24 Globers, 24 flat earthers invited, and we're going to be going to see whether or not there is a 24-hour sun. So there you go.
All right, looks like we got something. Plane will be visible on flight radar. All of the flights to Antarctica, due to insurance requirements, are to have the proper hardware installed. Well, that's good to know. So it should be visible.
If that's true, and I'm not denying it, if somebody has a subscription to one of these websites like, Flight Radar 24, can you go on there and see if previous ALE flights are tracked, Antarctic Logistics and Expeditions? They have at least a half a dozen flights every single year. So we should be able to figure that out ahead of time.
Excellent. Yeah, because I would like to, because I think one big objection that could occur is that, well, we're not seeing real-time tracking of your plane. How do we know you're actually going south? For all we know, you're going to the penguin enclosure at SeaWorld.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard very similar arguments. I just released a video yesterday called Flat Earthers Need a Globe Earth Geography Lesson. And in there, I explain how it won't be possible for us to be anywhere other than Antarctica. And so far, I haven't received any rebuttals to that.
Yeah, and I know I've heard of this being a possibility, but individuals have been able to take the information from like FlightAware or similar programs, and they're able to recreate the actual flight in Microsoft flight simulators. So we could have like a real-time simulation as this is actually happening, which would be absolutely epic. Let's see. Let me go ahead and bring this up. All right. And yes, pardon, they accept tracking data now. That is a very good question. Will Jaron or Dave Weiss or Witsit or whoever, will they sign off on that tracking data? So because everything is going to be, I assume, documented and printed out after the fact, you're going to have like what we did when we measured the distance to the sun. We had a master document that had everything in it. Are you going to have them sign off on that document, including the fact that you flew where you said you flew to?
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. We're going to have a lot of, videos showing where people are actually located, boarding the plane, videos out the window while we're flying, videos when we get off the plane. Yeah, we're going to have as much tracking as possible.
Are you going to give them the privilege to keep some footage completely to themselves, or is all footage to be shared with everyone, regardless of the camera they use? So it doesn't matter if it's a camera that you brought with you, like a GoPro or an Insta360. It could be your own personal cell phone. All footage captured on this trip is to be shared with everybody.
Yes. Yeah, we've already mentioned that to a couple of the participants, but yeah, all footage is going to be given to everyone. Everyone's going to get a copy of the original unedited footage. That way there can be no claims of changing people's words or taking things out of context or anything like that.
So there will be anti-tamper measures in place, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And on the assumption that someone does try to take someone else out of context, what will your response be?
We'll expose them. We'll show the original video and make a big deal about it.
And so you're willing to really go after individuals who misrepresent what actually happened. You know, none of this Mr. Nice Guy BS. It's, oh no, you fucked up and I'm going to tell you exactly how. And we have the receipts to show it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Gloves would come off if any funny business goes on like that.
All right. Understood. So with that, I am very satisfied with that. So I guess what we're going to do is we're going to close out here. But before we do, I want to give it to 82 Productions. Do you have some comments or some questions of your own?
No, not at the moment. For those who are unaware, Reds and I actually did spend some time talking about this discussion before it was even scheduled. So a lot of my concerns were mirrored and put into the questions that Reds has already asked.
Sweet. All right. So, Will, I got 2 final questions for you. And then after that, we will go ahead and close this out. So the second to last question is this. How excited are you for this trip?
I'm very excited. Absolutely very excited. I think, again, I don't know the impact it's going to have, but I think and hope that this ends up being something talked about for generations to come.
Thank you very much. And for $20, more ramen for the trip. I want people to realize that I am not going. It is far too cold for me. I have chronic Florida boy syndrome, and that means that I am not comfortable unless the humidity is above 90 and temperature also above 110 preferably. So I can't go. I would die instantly.
Hey, calm down. It's going to be almost 80 here today.
I'm telling you right now that you live where the air hurts your face. and these guys are going to go to a place on purpose where the air hurts your face. And then they're going to be wondering, why am I where the air hurts my face? Anyway, so we'll be doing that. But thank you for the $20. Let me go ahead and post that up there. And for the final question that we have here is this. On the way back, are you going to stop by any landmarks that show that you were at your original takeoff point and that you were taking off in a particular direction, which would demonstrate that, yes, there is no version of this trip where we did not go to Antarctica?
Yeah, the main landmark is going to be South America, and we will be visiting places. We will be getting to South America early. It's not like we're just going to be getting there and immediately hopping on a plane to Antarctica. We'll get there. We'll visit some landmarks, some places there that everybody will be able to see exactly where we are.
All right. Understood. And with that, I'm just going to close out with not a question, but a comment. But Will Duffy, I just want you to know, I absolutely fucking hate this. I hate the fact that because individuals have been wrong on the internet since 2015, that they're essentially getting a paid-for trip to Antarctica, which is on a lot of people's bucket lists. I absolutely hate that fact. But I cannot deny that this would at least temporarily either shut them up or get them excommunicated out of their almost flat earth cult. So I'm going to say Godspeed, and please keep us updated as to what is going on with this, both from the globe side and the flat earth side, and we will be rooting for you. But yes, just to make you fully aware, I absolutely hate this, that because people are wrong on the internet, that has granted them the privilege of going to Antarctica. It's stupid, it's bullshit, but what are you going to do, right?
Hey,
Red, Well, Reds, the conversation about flat Earth has been going on YouTube for how long now?
Oh, I know. I didn't say that they didn't work to put in this much stupid on the internet, which got them on the list in the first place. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying it still fucking sucks at the end of the day, but whatever. Yeah, Will Duffy, I'm going to say thank you very much for agreeing to this conversation. I think it's been beneficial for all the people watching, as well as myself. I learned a thing or two. And we're going to close out with another super chat. Oh, look, another penis. Look at that. I appreciate this, C3. Look at that. We got all the dicks today. And so, yes, this live stream has now been demonetized. Will Duffy, thank you very much for stopping by. 82 Productions, thank you very much for being the referee. And yeah, if there's nothing else, we're going to sign off. Will Duffy, you good?
Yeah, thanks, guys. I'll keep everybody updated. Appreciate it.
All right, 82, you good?
As good as I can be.
All right, perfect. So, guys, thank you very much for watching. We're closing it out. We're closing it out here. Peace out. Goodbye. Have a good day. Sweet dreams. They are made of these. Who would have a mind to disagree?
A flurf.